I want to begin by asking you this. Do you see yourself as a role model for gender equality, or do you believe that there is no such thing as a man's job anymore?
There's no such a thing as man's job anymore. Not because I've been given this responsibility, but I think over the period, over the ages, I think Indian women have definitely reached such heights. Only that has not been steady is my argument. We've had people reaching segments of our lives, professions, and performed excellently, but that didn't continue. It dropped after that one individual, and then again it took its own time before the next one came. So we tend to think that in India, opportunities don't exist or women cannot rise. Of course, these are only exemplars which you can quote here and there. The general condition of women is a different debate altogether. But it is possible. It is possible possible opportunities exist, and we've done this before, and I don't want for a minute to believe that I'm the first one.
All right. But of course, since we began with you being in China, and that was of course where that photograph was shot, let's talk about China first, since the Prime Minister and you have just both been there. After last year's very tense 73-day long standoff between Indian and Chinese troops in Doklam, this is of course the disputed area that India believes is part of Bhutan, but China claims otherwise. This meeting coming after that standoff, and the Prime Minister and President Xi Jinping have been described as holding a very rare informal meeting. Now, do you believe that this has been able, that meeting, to reset the very strained ties between the two countries?
I don't want to pick a hole on your question, but then I don't want to use the word reset.
Okay.
I think every time there is an effort to reach out and also to engage, it is welcome in whichever format it happens. And the Doklam incident, I don't see it as a negative for India. On the contrary, it was a slightly stretched engagement, and the disengagement happened too. But I think it has made India globally to be seen as a country which can handle its affairs maturely, not getting into bellicose, argumentative, and also rush to a crisis kind of a maturity. And as a result, I think the way in which the engagement happened, the disengagement happened, has gone, I would think, in India's favor, because the bilaterals that I've had with many countries have shown that people have looked up to us to say, you were in a situation, but you got out of the situation, and there was just no more, aggravating of the situation, no bloodshed, no bullet, nothing, but disengagement did happen.
So would you say then that Doklam is a closed issue, that there are no indicators that China has actually stopped construction activity in the area? So has this been laid to rest? Because, you know, if you hear the opposition, they seem to have a very different take on it. We heard a very aggressive Congress president in his, what he called his Jan Akrosh rally yesterday, taking on the Prime Minister very strongly on this and saying he didn't even bring up Doklam when he was in China. How would you respond to that?
I'll talk about the substance of Doklam. Doklam 2017 has had a disengagement, and that's over and done with. And I think both the countries have assessed for themselves as to how we've got to move forward. And the SCO was a very good alibi for us to talk as a forum in which many countries are there. But in the context of SCO, both External Affairs Minister Sushma Swarajji and I've had bilateral with our Chinese counterparts. A lot of things, a lot of details in a very formal environment was discussed. But post that, when the Prime Minister has gone there in a very informal setup, an informal could be one meeting, but here is a situation where even by their own admission, the Chinese have said that this is for the second time that the President Xi Jinping has come out of Beijing to receive a leader, and both the times it happens to be Narendra Modi, our Prime Minister. But after that, the 2 days were just not one meeting, the first day and the second meeting the second day. They've continuously been together, breakfast, lunch, dinner, walking, going to the lake or whatever. And it is an informal talk between the two leaders, mind you, two big countries, neighbors.
And two countries that don't have a history of being very informal.
That's right. Particularly after the new arrangement in China, I would think the world would be looking at far more with a sense of awe because of the changes which have happened. But here we go, we have an informal 2 full day engagement. And I would think in the world of diplomacy, that's one of the new approaches where you have informal, but yet they're not going to be talking about matter of any other interest, but of national interest, each of their own national interests. So the outcome, if you would ask me, is not just for today. The outcome is for a long time to come. The kind of relationship you've built, you could probably take the telephone and talk to one another, and that is an institutional benefit that both the countries can get. So Prime Minister has done something which I would think is absolutely out of the box.